We're live now. Let me work on getting this camera set up just a little bit better. Sorry for like the jostling and stuff. Sorry for my messy desk. I personally need this today. I'm very much in the mood to paint and not much else. So I'm gonna hope that this gets me jazzed about all the stuff that I have headed up. Let's see. I think I need a little bit more water in my wet palette. Sorry, I probably should have done all of this off camera, but you get to see how the sausage is made here. We're continuing to paint Miss Marvel. This is part 2, and it's been a couple weeks, so sorry if you've been waiting with bated breath for this one to come out. My music seems to have stopped in the background, but we'll carry on anyway. Couple updates to just my workspace since last we were here. Oh, come on. Let's get focused a little bit better. Wow, why so far away? I was able to get my paint stand 3D printed, it's been awesome. So I have this here. It doesn't hold all of my paints, but super nice to have, so they're not just all kicking around in a box. And let's see, that's probably pretty good, right? I really don't love YouTube's ability to autofocus, but let's go ahead. Oh, it does zoom though. Did I know that? I don't think I did. Once again, sorry about this, but I think if we can get the focus right and then actually zoom, it might actually be a better video quality than we've been working with. Let's try this. Okay, well, welcome. Here's Miss Marvel so far. To recap, I did use speed paints from the Army Painter on the yellow portions, which I really liked how that turned out. The primer base on this is it's actually a metal base, and then I did white over the top. Army Painter primers as well. I've been really impressed with Army Painter primers specifically. If you don't know too much about mini painting, you're probably not watching this, but you definitely want to use a miniature specific primer, just so that you're not covering up essential details and whatnot. So we're going to continue. I'm excited to get the blue on here so that it starts looking a little bit more complete, and let's go ahead and get started there. I'm fighting between just doing a normal blue and working with the speed paint some more, because I did the highlighting with the white primer, but because I've bled a little bit crest area, I have bled through with the yellow a little bit, so that makes me a little bit nervous to do any kind of speed paint on top of that, because then they'll just blend instead of standing out nicely. So I think I'm actually going to just start with this deep blue, which I'm shaking right now. See, that looks nicely in focus. Maybe I'll try and keep her there while I'm painting. No guarantees though. The other thing that I got, an upgrade to my workspace, is I did get these mixing balls, also from the Army Painter. They were fairly inexpensive on Amazon, and I had just noticed that my paints were not staying nice and creamy as I wanted, and did a little bit of research, found that these mixing balls were kind of what's recommended. And the other thing that got me there was I was just not patient enough to sit there and shake them forever. So now I don't have to shake for near as long, and I can paint more. whatever gets me painting more, I'm definitely a fan of. So I think I'm going to start out with just the normal regiment brush. Oh, where is my... Pardon me while I grab my water. This thing's so massive. If there's one item that I really need to upgrade, it's just my water container. I know they have like those silicone puck things that you can stick at the bottom of a glass. I'm very tempted by those, so if anybody knows about those or has one and can recommend, I would definitely love to hear your experience with them. If there's a specific brand, because I don't really want to spend money on something that's cheap. That's what happened here with this massive container. All right. Okay, sorry, just making sure you can see okay if I stay right about here. So I do paint with a fairly watered down initial base, mostly because I already count on doing a couple layers anyway of various shades of blue, and it just helps me control the paint a bit more. Doesn't get globby, I can take my time. Oh man, it's funny, I'm not a huge like red, white, and blue like fan as far as like color palettes go. I think it's just growing up in the United States, it just feels kitschy sometimes. But for whatever reason, when it's on superheroes, I'm like super into it. I think just the blue and the red contrast each other so nicely with the warm and cool colors. By the way, saw the new trailer for Wakanda Forever, and it looks amazing. I'm actually very, very excited for it, which I was even before, but correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to have verified that Shuri is going to be the next Black Panther, clearly a woman, regardless of who it is, which I think is exciting. I think it'll be awesome. I know there was a little bit of flack for people saying that Marvel was using Boseman's death as propaganda and profiting off of it. But personally, I think it seems like they're doing a really beautiful job of paying tribute to him from what I can see in the trailer so far. Since we're here painting Miss Marvel, has anybody watched that the werewolf movie that's on Disney Plus? It's a Marvel werewolf, black and white. I saw it on there. It always comes up on my recommended, but I actually have absolutely no idea what it's about or anything, or whether I should watch it. I know there are a lot of TV shows and things that are fighting for my attention. I started The One Ring and, or no, Ring of Power? What did they call it? Anyway, the Prime Lord of the Rings series. And man, it's good. I'm only a few episodes in because the nights where me and my wife have time to watch a longer episode and I'm not falling asleep are generally pretty slim. But wow, I am so impressed with the production value. It just seems like they went all in, which I'm so happy about. I'm sick of properties that I love giving or getting just not the best treatment, looking for quick cash in. That's my biggest worry about if they ever... I heard rumors of Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn being made into a movie. And it makes me real nervous. I had the same feelings about when Disney did Artemis Fowl. I loved that as a kid, and it was not a great adaptation. Just seemed lower budget, a little bit more focused on a cash grab instead of actual investment in the property. It's especially sad when it's a series, because then the whole series goes down and you don't get to see it resolved. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for just a little bit. When I get to these like more delicate areas, oh geez, I'm off the screen, I'm so sorry. When I get to some of these more delicate areas where I could like bump and mess up the areas that I painted previously, I get a little bit less able to talk and paint at the same time. So forgive me while I get in there. I really should bring up my computer too and check for comments. It is a lot to try and paint and talk and watch for comments. Something that I hope to get better at, but also I figure I'm going to be painting anyway. I like to set aside painting time every Friday. And so if I'm already going to be painting, then why not just do it on YouTube Live? So that if people want to jump on, listen to me ramble about life and stress, you know, who doesn't like to hear about other people's stress, right? That's a joke, people. If you haven't noticed, my humor is a little dry. All right. I'm liking this blue color, especially since I'm planning on throwing a highlight pass over it at the end. It is a bit dark here, but my style in general leans a little bit less bright. I like a little bit more of the saturated, deep tones over the... Oh man, I might have to take her out of this for a minute. There's one area on here that I cannot get to. So I tend to do a little bit more with darker, a little bit more weathered tones, rather than bright, perfect, or pastel colors. Maybe I'll challenge myself one of these times to do a wildly different palette than I would normally use. Oh shoot. Dropped my paintbrush, but luckily I think it only got on the base. The one thing that I really like about speed paints and washes is just how they get in all of the cracks, and you don't have to worry about like really great coverage in a lot of places because they just kind of run into all of the nooks and crannies and crevices. But you can achieve a similar effect by just watering down your paint a little bit more and then applying pretty liberally. It will do a pretty good job of running up to those creases that you need it to. A really good mini, or a mini that is really enjoyable to paint, is one with pretty deep scribe lines, so that when you're painting, you don't have to spend quite as much time about worrying where your divisions are and all of that. You can kind of just paint, and the paint will like run up to those divisions nicely. All right, I think we're good on the pants for at least this pass. Oh, let me do one more on here, just to make sure we get up to that, whatever that thing is, her hip guard. All right. You know what, I am going to jump on YouTube on my computer so that I can see if there are any comments or anything like that. We're gonna try and avoid any kind of audio reverb, but I'm gonna mute it there. Here we are. All right, So now the chat is up. If you want to ask me a question, if you want to hear about something about life or about painting, please let me know. And I will try to keep an eye on the chat as we go along. Oh, I maybe got a little bit too watered down for this one, but I was getting annoyed at how hard it was to get into the cracks and stuff on the pans, and so maybe this will be good. Who knows? The only real trouble is if this blue bleeds too much and I get it all over this yellow. The yellow is a speed paint, so it's not, I'm not going to be able to use that same yellow very well to cover up. But I should be able to find a decent match. One thing that I love about Army Painters paints is they color match really well with each other. And so you do generally have a pretty easy time matching colors and just finding out the right way to get those colors on each other. Also, if it's of interest, I have done the other ones. I've tried a couple different formats. I was painting these and recording those and then doing a sped up recording while I talked over it during this time. I found that I didn't enjoy that as much. I'll be honest, if I don't enjoy this, I'm not going to keep doing it, and so I kind of stopped doing that, although it does go a long way to know if people liked one version versus another, so that I can keep, like, might as well make this something that other people find valuable. So if you've watched those and if you know that you liked them, feel free to let me know. Yeah, I went really watery on this coat. Getting in like armpit areas is such a pain. Oh, here we are. The live wasn't loading very well, and so I refreshed and it popped right up, so good news. I can see myself painting on my other monitor. Oh man, I'm gonna have to get out the finer detail brush for some of these arm areas. They're throwing me for a loop right now. So I think sometime in the near future I want to get some Warhammer minis to paint, which I shouldn't really do because I have so many minis from different board games that could be painted that I haven't even touched or thought about painting. But I do love Warhammer's minis, especially like they do a really good job with the sculpts when you have like floating pieces. I can't remember what they're called. They're like weird ghosty skeleton floating wraith things. But man, I love the sculpts and I just want to paint them. So at some point, I think I'll go ahead and do that. If anyone who has connections at Warhammer ever sees this and thinks it would be fun to collaborate, I will absolutely paint for free minis. It's funny, so many people that I tell that I do mini paintings, their response is generally like, oh my gosh, that is so stressful, like the most stressful thing in the world to me. I'm not exactly sure why it's not stressful to me. I mean, I do a lot of painting, so there's a good chance that it's just because I am used to painting. But I just find like this very detailed attempt at like perfection so cathartic for some reason. And to see it come out on the other side, not perfect, but like very passable. I think there's just some kind of nice life allegory going on. It's like, see, you make attempts and you do your best, and it's unlikely to turn out perfect. But what comes out of it isn't bad. Not perfect, but it's still good. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's just a nice reminder that I don't have to be perfect, but I can try my best and keep attempting to improve, and the end result's going to be enough. Oh, there are a couple yellow areas that I'm just going to need to find a good paint to go over them with, which is fine because I don't think I got as many highlights as I want on this yellow with the speed paint. So I think I want to go over those anyway. It's like this constant like tug of war with the borders on the different colors. You overpaint a little bit there, and then you paint back and overpaint again until finally you don't mess up. So far, I really like the color combos. I could do neater. And hopefully by the end it will clean up to be a little bit neater, but there's some areas, the coverage of this blue is surprising me that I'm still seeing a lot of unevenness coming through. We're on around coat 3, and I'm still just, which I know I went really light with the first coat. The second coat I felt like I got a little bit heavier again, and then this coat, I really hope we get a good coverage with this coat. I'm not sure if I want to move on to the face today. I would rather not have 3 parts to this, but we still haven't gotten into any of like the lighting effects, doing some highlighting on that helmet and the hair. I guess we could go into the face right now. And then the base is always like whatever. It happens very quickly and it's not a pain. Make sure we get this. Oh, I don't have something to dry this off with, which doesn't really matter because you want it wet anyway. Let's see. So I believe the skin tone that I've appreciated in the past is this barbarian flesh from the army painter. Let me shake it up. I can't even hear the metal ball clattering around in there, but I know I put one in. All right, let's see. Okay, texture looks good. I got way too much though. That's the thing. There's never like a ton of skin painting that goes on because, you know, the cool part about the minis are the clothes. So I always end up with way more paint on my palette than I actually need for their skin. There's an army painter skin tone that is, I believe it's elven flesh, but it turns out so orange to me. I could not handle it. I used that on a couple and just found that I was trying to cover up and tone down the orangeness of it so much. It got really frustrating. So, I don't know. Maybe elves have really orange skin. If somebody knows the finer details of elven skin tones, go ahead and let me know. But, oh gosh, the top of this nose is not wanting to cooperate. I've been saying this for several videos now. I need a new the fine detail brush. This one is getting a little bit frayed where it just won't stay together, won't really accomplish some of that finer detail that I need it to, you know, its entire purpose. Okay, this is actually looking okay. For a first coat. So for now I'm gonna have to go back through with red and clean up a couple of these spots. Sorry, it's probably really out of focus and really close to the camera on this one. Unfortunately, I have to do this really close to my face. All right, the coverage on this is fine, but it's looking a little bit odd to me, just a little bit inconsistent. So I'm going to let it dry. It's weird, it's like there's little spots that are not taking the paint as well. So I think letting it dry completely and then coming back to it is gonna be wise. So let's take a look. Our blue seems to be covering pretty good, but I think I want to go back over it. Just at least once with a pretty watered down coat, because now we're risking getting a buildup of paint. But some of the, once we apply some of the lighting effects, it will really help to just kind of smooth it all out, because it won't look like poor coverage anymore. It'll just look like lighting effects. Overall, very happy with the color. Just need a little bit more uniformity across all of it. All right, I think I'm going to start doing a little bit of the lighting effects. Let's see, we used pure red. We have a dragon red here that would be good for some of the darker colors, but what I need is a lighter. So pardon me for just a minute. Whoa. While I knock over my camera. All right, we're going to freestyle this a little bit. I thought I had, oh man, this tripod invading on my space. So I thought I had a lighter shade of red, but I don't think I do. So we're going to be mixing a little bit. I generally don't mix very much. So let's go ahead and grab our pure red, just a dab. And then we have our white. Let's mix these together just a bit. I'll actually put this in the frame so you can see. I generally pull off to the side instead of like actually mixing, and then I can just pull in the amount of red that I feel like I need. I really don't love mixing reds, especially with white, because it just feels like it goes pink so fast. Whereas like a true, when we generally see a lighter red, it turns a little bit closer to orange, just because of how daylight works. So let's see though. I watered this down quite a bit because we really need it to blend nicely. But we're going to get a little bit on the top of the head here. Okay. I have it pretty watery, but I also have a lot of it on my brush, so I'm going to get a little bit off and then just with water go around the edges to kind of feather that out a little bit. Yeah, so we don't want it to end up looking pink, but it's amazing how these little subtle lighting effects actually make a huge difference in the end, like in the end quality of the paint. And people who don't paint minis would probably look at it and not even realize that there are different paint colors, and that means you've done a good job. But just because they don't notice does not mean they're not appreciating it, because it does take it takes a lot of effort to like mask reality, and if you've hit like some of that realism, then that's when people don't notice. It's a weird concept, but in most of design it remains the same, that it's you actually, your goal is to not stand out. In some areas, of course, it is your goal to stand out, but in things like this, if you have people saying like, oh man, look at that lighting that he did on the top, then I've probably failed. What I want people to do is just not even notice it because it blends in so nicely. So I'm getting a little bit more of the pure red and coming back in a little bit. I got a little bit far down on the edges here, so still pretty watered down. What this is going to do is help them blend between the two colors that I've put on there now. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Now there's a place, I'm not going to do any of these places that I messed up with the skin, because I'm probably going to have to redo that again anyway. So let's put a little bit of this glow on the shoulder pads. And then when we do our actual like the wash over the top of all of this, that's what's going to pull out more of the dark tones that we're going to be looking for. So right now we're really just making sure we have good mid-tones and highlights. The more I look at some of these yellows, the more I'm like, I am going to have to go over those, at least on some level, to get the whites back, or to get the yellow back in there. So looking at the top of her head, that lighting, it's blending nicely. I'm trying to decide how shiny I want it to be. I mean, I think more of like it's a red leather is better. However, it would be kind of nice to seem like it's catching a little bit more light than I'm currently seeing here. So let's try grabbing just a little bit of white, doing just a couple little hot spots, and feathering them in just a little bit. All right. Sorry for the painful silence. I'm clearly concentrating really hard right now. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going a bit lighter than I even did on the helmet on these shoulder pads, just because they have a really hard corner on them, and so they would catch a little bit more of the light. I'm still trying to get a nice feather in there. So it's just kind of on that corner. I don't know how well you can see that between the actual glare and what I've painted, but right along this sharp corner, I've tried to get a lot more light in there, and I may actually come through with another pass later and add even a little bit more light. There's also a similar, I mean, it's not as hard of an edge, but there is an upper edge on this little hip shield thing that is going to catch a lot more of the light. Going to come in on the hand guards too, some of the fingers, and at this stage you can be pretty liberal and still a little bit messy because this is not like a finish pass. You kind of need to get some on there to start understanding what you actually want to happen. So I will typically go over this somewhat liberally. It's going to be easier to scale it back to its current color because that was a pure paint color. So I would get for sure all that you want of what's currently there, because it's going to be kind of difficult to mix more of that exact color, but dialing back to the red is not going to be really hard. But then of course I clearly get too much and I need to blend it back in. Ooh. Yeah, this is when it starts looking a little bit too pink and I start having regrets, but like I said, I can always go back to red. So keeping your paints as wet as possible also allows for a little bit more of this dynamic blending, because right now I'm painting back in some red while my previous layer is still a little bit wet, so they can blend nicely. So I'm not getting the pure red and I'm not getting the highlight color that I mixed. I'm getting kind of a mixture of the two. And as long as you're okay making some of these decisions on the fly, it actually is a really nice way to get some really even blending without a ton of effort. And I would bet that those two areas are going to blend really nicely together. I won't even notice the transition. Okay, so far looking pretty good. We have maybe the tops of her feet could be a little lighter. Maybe some on this hand. And then we're going to also have like a little bit on like cheekbones and stuff right here, where light would definitely catch. One thing that's really nice about getting like comfortable with these lighting effects as well is you can really accent like facial features and other features on your mini. For example, her like furrowed brow here, you would catch a little bit more light on the tops of the brows because they're wrinkling down than you would in some other places. So if the mini isn't quite getting that because of the matte paint, acrylic is a fairly matte paint, then you can kind of pull out those features a little bit more, which is nice. Boost the features that you like to see and blend in the ones that you don't want to see as much. So if you want to make her seem a little bit more angry even, you can kind of accentuate those features. I don't know why I'm spending so much time around the eyes right now, because I'm probably, actually maybe I don't even have to do the eyes right now. They're kind of like a silvery white, which is what they should be. I don't know, we'll see if I feel like I have to go in there. The way I get eyes is generally with a little toothpick. I'll get a toothpick and just kind of dab in there. All right, I'm afraid that's all the time we have. I need to get back to some work, and I'm just gonna really quick, while I have the paint here, while it's nice and wet, I'm going to do a second coat to the face. Just to even out some of the areas you probably can't see on the camera, but there are some areas that seem a little bit splotchy, like it didn't get a really even coat. Hopefully the second layer is all I'll have to do to get rid of that, and then proceed to finishing up around the face. Oh man, I have to clean up this red so much. But I do think the skin color is correct, so I'm glad I don't have to mess with that at all. And I'm sorry for the cruddy video quality. I really need to figure that out. I don't know if it's a setting that I can change on YouTube or whatnot, but there she is. Sorry about that jolt. And yeah, she needs another round of polishing and stuff, but I'm happy with where she's at for this stage. Coming back in and doing some of those finishing touches, you'll be surprised at how much the wash will improve it as well. Sorry, I just noticed a spot while I have the red here. But yeah, until next time, we had very low live viewer counts for this one, but that's fine. It's in the middle of a day on a Friday. But this is when works for me. to block out some of my day for some sanity painting. So thank you again, and we will get together again soon for part 3, or you never know, maybe I'll just have a burst of energy, I'll finish it, and just post some of the final results.